the Honorable Pearnel Charles Jr., our Minister of Labor and Social Security. And we also have the Honorable Matthew Samuda, Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, with responsibility for water, environment, climate change, and the blue and green economy. And we also have some other guests who are here that we really should be acknowledging. Mrs. Dion Jennings, Acting Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Labor and Social Security. I know Mr. Carr is supposed to be here, the Acting President of the National Water Commission. And we also have Ms. Talia Gibson, Senior Director, Water Policy and Monitoring Branch. We also have our here in the Ministry of Education, and she's here to speak on some matters later. We will have some other guests joining us, and as they join, I will also introduce them. And we also have some students of the Caribbean School of Media and Communications at UWI, and it's so good to have them here. And as always, our members of the media and the team from GIS and OPM, Jamaicans watching at home and abroad, good morning to you again. And as always, I'll start with a couple news stories that you may have missed, which are very, very important. And the first one that I want to talk about is Jamaica's rating. Fitch affirms Jamaica's rating at BB-, which is an outlook that is positive. This is a big deal for Jamaica, and Prime Minister Dr. the Most Honorable Andrew Holness has welcomed the latest Fitch ratings, which has affirmed Jamaica's long-term foreign currency issuer default rating at BB-, with the outlook remaining positive. So it's not we said that, is other people said that. International people have said that our economy looks good and has a positive outlook. Fitch Ratings is a leading global credit rating agency that provides credit ratings and research on various entities like countries, corporations, and financial institutions. And they essentially assess their creditworthiness and the likelihood of defaulting on debt. They're considered one of the big three credit rating agencies alongside Moody's and Standard & Poor's. This decision reflects Jamaica's robust governance, significant progress in debt reduction, and a favorable economic growth trajectory. The positive outlook indicates potential for trade if the country continues its fiscal discipline and economic reforms. And I know this administration is committed to continuing that fiscal discipline. Fitch also highlighted Jamaica's resilience in managing external shocks, and two ministers that are here are big of that resilience we've seen in Jamaica. And so it's a day to celebrate. It's very important that we celebrate these things, because in the past, Jamaica would not be seen by any international credit rating agency as good and having a positive outlook. And so when we get this is important. And for those of you who don't know, this rating is higher than Barbados. It's a big, big deal for our country, and I hope we're all, as Jamaicans, we should celebrate what all of us have done. It's not just the administration, it's all of us collectively have done this. And so I started with that one, and then which help us to get on that trajectory of even increased growth. One of them relates to crime, which we all know is down. And every week I will say it again, crime is significantly down. We are at our lowest level of crime over the last 10 years. That is, again, a big deal. And so the JCF is continuing its work, and they have bolstered their capacity with the acquisition of 274 new vehicles. And those cost $1.7 billion. So another $1.7 billion investment in the capacity of our JCF. And so our National Security Minister, the Honorable Dr. Horace Chang, has said that the government is committed to providing members of the police force with all the tools they need to execute their duties. And this, again, with the acquisition of 274 new vehicles, is a sign that we're not letting up and that the improvements we've seen in our crime statistics are going to continue because we're going to do whatever we can in order to support our police force. Also, on the health side, $800 million has been allocated for the Western Children's Adolescent Hospital project. And this is, again, going to be in Montego Bay, St. James, and the project is aimed at building a 220-bed facility on the compound of the Cornwall Regional Hospital, medical services for children and adolescents up to 18 years old across Western Jamaica. And during the new financial year coming, the funds will be used to complete a lot of the work that is necessary. So they'll be doing some cladding work. They'll also be buying and purchasing and procuring all of the equipment for the hospital. And this will be the first of its kind in the English-speaking Caribbean. And a lot of work has already gone into it. The project started in 2016. And it is now moving into its third phase of towards completion. And so again, we have to remind you that this was funded by our government, your government, and also the People's Republic of China. And so we look forward to that project coming to light. And there are many more. I always have a lot, I always have a long list, but in the interest of time, I'm going to move on. And I'm going to invite our first minister to come to the podium, and he is the Honorable Pearnel Charles Jr., our Minister of Labor and Social Security. Please welcome him.
Thank you so much, Minister. Good morning to you. Morning, Minister Samuda, Permanent Secretaries, CTDs, friends all, members of the media. A lot to discuss this morning. I will attempt to be concise so that we can get some questions in, particularly because, as you know, Minister, as we speak, we are setting up to start another in the series of regional labor talks, our road shows and job fairs, which we started in Montego Bay, went on to St. Anne, and today we are in Manchester. So we are supposed to be starting at 9:30, and the minister is supposed to speak at 10. I'll leave it there. Again, good morning to all. The Ministry of Labor and Social Security continues its commitment towards empowering Jamaica's workforce through these island-wide regional roadshows. The roadshow is aimed at enhancing public awareness on the key labor and employment issues. And as a part of the effort, we are going to be in Manchester with a very excellent group of participants. We'll have about 500 or more persons participating alongside virtual attendees from across Jamaica and the diaspora. The theme is transforming Jamaica's workforce for greater resilience and sustainable development. And of course, it aligns 500 or more persons participating alongside virtual attendees from across. For employment. We will not just be providing information, but we'll be receiving and seeking information from participants. That information will form a part of our brief for the Second World Summit on Social Development in Qatar later on this year, where global leaders discuss strategies for poverty eradication, full and productive employment, and decent work for all, and social integration. It is very important, because in Jamaica, what we do is we listen to all stakeholders, employers, job seekers, other ministries and agencies, and we utilize that to form the comprehensive communication that we have at these international seminars. The key features of the roadshow will be a special focus on the labor market inclusion, which means that the ministry will be focusing on the diverse groups: youths, persons with disabilities, women, rural workers, second career job seekers, and seniors who are also fit for work. Additionally, pensioners and social protection beneficiaries will have direct access to critical information and services through the Roadshow's one-stop show format. We will also be inviting and receiving our colleagues from the U.S. Embassy, who will join us to provide information on the adjustments as it relates to the U.S. Seasonal Employment Program that we can expect based on adjustments to their immigration policies, and also to provide any clarity for Jamaicans exploring employment opportunities abroad. We're going to also highlight investment opportunities for the Jamaican diaspora who hope to come back home and to join and to contribute to national economic growth. In response also to our commitment to environmental sustainability, our roadshow also introduces the Just Transition Project, a very important project which we work with the ILO to integrate decent work principles into the national development policies. We will have a special panel there to discuss climate change, Minister Samuda, and to explore the impacts of climate change on the workforce from a tripartite perspective involving government, employers, and workers. We will give updates on the newly launched Spiro project, the National Employment Policy, Jamaica's Decent Work Agenda, and we will also have an information session that will be critical, where the Jamaica Productivity Center will present on productivity and resilience for the future of work, exploring different sectors, global services, manufacturing, tourism, financial services, and we will also invite the Jamaica Business Development Corporation, JBDC, who will lead a session on how to start a business. So we discuss how your business can be productive, we discuss how you can start a business, and we offer guidance on accessing small business loans, business plans, capacity building, financial advice, and all of these insights to empower our entrepreneurs to navigate the evolving landscape successfully. Finally, the roadshow will see us having an amazing job fair, and it is a major highlight. We have the Electronic Labor Exchange Department that will host that job fair. We have over 20 employers confirmed, multiple industries, more than 200 job vacancies, on-the-spot interviews, and of course, persons will be leaving with jobs today. So it's an excellent chance and opportunity for job seekers to connect directly with employers and to secure employment. That's what I will say about the Labour Roadshow, Minister. If you don't mind, I'll just go straight through, because we have three issues. So with these roadshows, we are pushing to foster education, reskilling, and of course, moving towards full productivity. However, we know that we still have some gaps. And so the employment of non-Jamaicans in Jamaica is managed by the Ministry of Labour and Social Security. It's governed by the Foreign Nationals and Commonwealth Citizens Employment Act, 1964, as well as the Caribbean Community Free Movement of Skilled Persons Act, 1997. And in my ministry, we have the Work Permit Department, which is responsible particularly for the administration of the authorization to work for non-Jamaicans seeking employment in Jamaica. In an effort to improve the management of the application and processing of these types of services, the Ministry of Labour and Social Security has commenced work to replace the existing work permit system and to also improve business processes through the creation of a new web-based and mobile-friendly work permit management system. The system, which will be informed by labour market intelligence as well as training and certification needs, aims to close the skill gaps in the local economy. In so doing, the ministry is ensuring that work permits are granted to persons where there are no Jamaican counterparts or a shortage in the labour market. And we are currently now at the final stage of development of this new digitized system. Pre-user acceptance testing is ongoing and will conclude by the end of February, followed by the actual user acceptance testing to commence in March, and the unit is committed to playing its part in reaching the new system development as soon as possible. The efficiency program that we have put in place has been in place now for over a year. And during that time, we can confirm that there have been several positive changes, including improved application processing times due to the addition of staff. However, despite all of that, we do recognize that further improvements can enhance efficiency, reduce processing times even further and backlog, reduce the errors in the process, improve payment processes, particularly for the online payments, to ensure that the client-facing experience is user-friendly for both employers and for foreign nationals. Consequently, and further to our examination, and as part of our commitment to modernizing Jamaica's labor market framework and to ensure we have a more efficient and transparent and responsive system, the Ministry of Labor and Social Security will be further enhancing our efficiency program by introducing Operation Streamline. Operation Streamline is a bold and strategic initiative aimed at improving the work permit system in Jamaica even further. For years, we know that employers, foreign investors, and workers have expressed serious concerns about the inefficiencies in the process, ranging from delays in processing to challenges with regards to compliance and monitoring. Consequently, Operation Streamline will specifically and specially be designed to tackle these challenges head-on, ensuring that Jamaica remains an attractive destination for skilled talent while also protecting opportunities for our local workforce. The key objectives will be, of course, to continue the digital transformation and to ensure faster processing time. And we are, as I said before, implementing a fully digitized application system to reduce paperwork and to improve turnaround time and accuracy. We will also have a strengthened oversight and compliance. We have developed and put in place a work permit oversight committee established to ensure fairness, transparency, and accountability in approvals. Employers must, however, know that you will have to demonstrate a clear need for hiring foreign workers while prioritizing skill transfer to Jamaicans. That means that going forward, this oversight committee will be even more granular in ensuring conditionalities attached to particular skills that are coming into the country to ensure that where we have those gaps, it is transferred in terms of skills to a Jamaican for the future work. We'll also have enhanced accessibility and customer support, and therefore we will have a dedicated work permit help desk to be introduced to provide real-time assistance and guidance. And we look forward to the new online tracking tools also that will also help applicants to monitor the progress, and that should come with the digitized system. And we will also have an email that will be provided for applicants or the companies to reach out to us if it is that you have any work permits that you believe are inordinately in delay, or if there are work permits past the 8-week period. And that email is workpermit@mlss.gov.jm. You ask again? Sure. workpermit@mlss.gov.jm. Of course, work permits will be granted in alignment with the national development priorities and skills shortages identified in key sectors. We're going to have a stronger linkage between the labor market information system and the work permit approvals. And this is to ensure that vacancies are first made available to qualified Jamaicans before any permits are issued. Also, going forward, related skills that are not found here in Jamaica will be examined to make sure that we have that apprenticeship conditionality. Winding down on this, we will have, of course, the requisite awareness campaign. Minister, I know that you would ask on that, to educate the businesses, investors, and workers on the new process. And we have started already, and we will continue the consultations with industry stakeholders to ensure the system remains efficient, fair, responsive to the labor market needs. And we will be implementing now a tiered prioritization system This is new. The tiered prioritization system will ensure that where applications submitted in excess of the 8-week period are still current in our process, they will be reviewed and advanced with urgency. And again, these applications, for them to be fast-tracked, we ask and we invite persons who have any permits beyond 8 weeks to contact us with that email, workpermit@mlss.gov.jm, and use the subject Operation Streamline. We expect to have positive impact from this: reduced processing times, greater transparency, greater accountability, stronger protection for our Jamaican workers, and in the very near future, the modern, efficient, and customer-friendly work permit system that we desire for our country. Lastly, Minister, and together with Minister Samuda, who I should perhaps ask to join me, so we've dealt with the Labour Roadshow, we've addressed work permit issues, and now moving on to persons with disabilities. The government of Jamaica remains committed to ensuring that every citizen, and especially our most vulnerable groups, are provided with the access to essential services that promote their well-being and dignity. You know that on the 14th of February, we acknowledged the anniversary, the third anniversary of our Disabilities Act. And also, it's critical for us at the JCPD and at the Ministry of Labour and Social Security to ensure that we are the champions, the advocates in terms of accessibility, inclusivity, and integration of opportunities for all Jamaicans. We expressed in Parliament then the I Am Able initiative, an initiative that will form our new national public awareness campaign. Today, we are pleased, together with Minister Samuda and the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, to state that following the announcement of the NWC's amnesty program in November of last year, we recognize the need for a specific accommodation for persons with disabilities under this initiative. And I want to specifically thank Minister Samuda, who has been instrumental in raising that issue as a critical one. The Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities, our JCPD, has a database currently of an estimate of almost 50,000 individuals, and there perhaps many more. But we only have full registration of just over 17,000 persons as persons with disabilities as members of the JCPD. This needs to be increased and improved. Of that amount, we have almost 13,000, 12,925 to be exact, that are over 18, and that could benefit from the amnesty that was announced by the Minister in November. Our objective then is to establish a special criterion within the National Water Commission's Water Amnesty Program to provide relief to persons with disabilities or their verified caregivers, thereby ensuring that they can benefit fully from this amnesty. I think that deserves a clap. This is excellent. This is excellent. This action aligns with Jamaica's commitment to the Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, particularly Article 3 and 28, which emphasize the rights of persons with disabilities to an adequate standard of living, which includes access to clean water services and social protection without discrimination. This principle guides our commitment to ensure that persons with disabilities are not left behind. The amnesty would also provide relief for the caregivers, as I said, which is very important. And if you see the Disabilities Act, Section 2.1 defines a caregiver as a parent, a legal guardian, or any other person responsible for caring for the health, financial, physical security, and general well-being of a person with disability. The amnesty in its current form allows eligible NWC customers, including pensioners and PATH beneficiaries, to have their debts written off partially or in full. The Minister will go into more specification in that regard. But we are very happy to see that joining pensioners and those on PATH, we now have persons with disabilities being embraced by the amnesty to receive full benefit. I'll ask the Minister to go into some more specifics, and then we can, if needed, respond in terms of the criteria required for the persons with disabilities.
Thank you, Minister Charles, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen, of course, colleague Minister Dana Dixon, members of the media, Permanent Secretary CTD's specifications under the Ministry of Labour's system of registration for persons who are disabled. As at Friday of last week, we have engaged with some 10,116 persons who are seeking to benefit from the amnesty. We can report that already 1,674 customers have been fully reconnected, and a further 2,489 are approved for reconnection, and that will happen over the next 2 weeks. There's an additional 3,400 inquiries by citizens who have reached out for details outside of the 10,000 who haven't come in yet or haven't taken advantage of their appointments. What this means is that the Water Commission has written off the debts or their arrears up to $238 million for customers, a debt that was largely uncollectible and that was affecting thousands of households. Now, from an application standpoint, we have applications for benefit up to $658 million. But what is important and what members of the media should be aware of is that this has also generated for the National Water Commission since January 1, $98.9 million in additional revenue that would not have come in. Now, the government has been at pains to explain that macroeconomic stability creates dividend for its citizens. Well-managed entities and public bodies create dividend for its citizens. That dividend is being repaid, or paid rather, to citizens by way of this amnesty, who continue to suffer the burden, or continued rather to suffer the burden of these bills related to massive leaks that they would have had. To remind everyone, the primary beneficiaries are pensioners and those on PATH. We've also extended the beneficiary list to those who are trying to transfer titles from persons who would have died, who left particular size bills to facilitate commercial transactions. This expansion is good for Jamaica, good for the National Water Commission, and of course due to the disabled community as we show what a caring government does. So, Minister Charles, we're happy to partner. I've already been asked by the board that should the need arise, when we see what the feedback is from the community, we will contemplate extension for the disabled community to give them adequate time to engage with the Water Commission on this program. So, Minister Charles, happy to partner with the MLSS on this particular matter.
Thank you, Minister. Let me just add to that. Yes, I see Dr. Hendricks in the back clapping, who is the lead for JCPD. This is a big day for our community. It's a big day for the ministry. I want you to understand that as a government, we are not just discussing issues, we are taking steps to implement in a very tangible and practical way various elements that are going to help persons with disabilities to really have access, to be included, and to certainly be integrated. You know that I stood here last year discussing the opportunities for persons with disabilities in our overseas employment program. We started off with 2 young ladies who worked with the Abilities Foundation Agricultural Program. They did so well that we had a request within 2 months for an additional 2, and we sent 2 young men up. They did so well that we are now receiving requests for an additional 2. I just want to say that because many times people feel that they're not able. That's why we have the initiative, I Am Able. It is not just for persons with disabilities, it's for all Jamaicans to know that we are able. Finally, as a matter of eligibility verification, we will ask that for persons with disabilities to access the amnesty, that they be registered with the JCPD. The JCPD has a process which allows for us, with our partners, to ensure the disability status. And so we will work out with the JCPD and the ministry that expedited registration process, or perhaps the start of the registration, to be one of the elements required in terms of verification for access to the amnesty program.
One other point, Minister Charles, just to remind those here and those listening elsewhere that we encourage persons engaging with the Water Commission to call ahead and make appointments to sit with our customer service team. This avoids undue wait in any of our locations. We have facilitated these appointments. We've even done some Saturdays where we've had heavier than normal calls, and we will do so when necessary. So encourage members of the disabled community to call ahead, make your appointment. It reduces wait time significantly when you come into NWC offices.
Thank you, Minister.
So do you want to take your questions now and then I go into my subjects after?
Yes.
Okay.
Even though all the media who are here should be in Manchester anyway, I'm not sure when I leave how you're going to stay here.
It's quick. All right. This morning, we have lovely Rasheen Nangle, who is going to be taking us through the Q&A section for Minister Charles, and then we'll have Minister Samuda, and then we'll take some other questions. Is there anyone?
We're asking persons who have questions to just stand, state your name and the entity you're from.
Good morning, Ministers. Sashana Small from the Gleno. Minister Charles, in light of the Auditor General's report that on the social assistance programs in the government, specifically as it relates to your ministry, what steps have been taken or are being taken as it relates to address these issues, especially on the disbursement of over $700 million in 7 years without the eligibility criteria?
You said without the established eligibility criteria?
Without established eligibility criteria. So the report detailed how these monies were dispersed over a number of years, and we didn't have like the required amount of transparency. So I'm asking you what steps have been taken or are being taken now to address these issues that were highlighted in the report?
Very, very good question, and thank you for that. I can indicate to you that having joined the ministry May 22nd, 2023, I joined at a time when perhaps they had already started to develop or developed a criteria that was in process and in use in terms of the distribution of any social benefit. So there are needs assessments that are required and mandated in terms of beneficiaries being identified and the circumstances being detailed. And there are other elements that are now required to ensure transparency. So perhaps the issue is, or was an issue, but it's an issue that we have worked on and developed a system that ensures transparency, ensures accountability, ensures that we have our social workers going out to make the necessary checks, ensures that we also put in place systems to provide all the respective details of the beneficiaries. And we work, as you know, with the members of parliament and other stakeholders who are also required, when they provide their short-term poverty, to provide the requisite needs assessment before being able to access the benefit. I don't know if you have any other specific question. They are in process right now.
All right.
Yeah.
Morning, Minister. Mahiri
Morning.
Stewart from Nationwide News here. I do understand that the Labour Ministry did meet with the AGMC, and you said that came to a resolution. Can you just go over what was discussed in the meeting, how the Ministry and the AGMC came to a positive conclusion, and how prepared is the Ministry to take on other matters in the future that may arise regarding not just the compensation review, but labour problems in general?
Again, excellent question. No, I can't discuss the details, but I can indicate to you that the ministry, this is what we do on a daily basis. A lot of what we do you don't hear, and that's our goal. We are that quiet giant. We don't require the publicity of our efforts. We have conciliatory efforts that are continuing, and we actually invite and encourage ministries, stakeholders, organizations, unions to come to us at a very early stage where we get an opportunity to introduce our team and to play that role of bringing persons together to have constructive dialogue and collaboration towards a better result. That's what we're doing right now. I can say that we are seeing positive results.
I'm going back to your point about the work permit in Jamaica. Currently, are there particular specific sectors, based on what you're hearing from stakeholders, which are currently suffering from a labor shortage? Because although we have corporate Jamaica, a lot of companies pushing for the government to make the process a little easier for the work permits, you have trade unions who are saying that you don't really have a shortage in some of these same sectors that they're pushing for foreign workers to be employed in.
A shortage where they're
Thank
pushing
you.
what? For farm workers?
Foreign
Oh,
workers. Foreign workers.
Farm workers on my mind, forgive me. Well, it's a range because you have many of our work permits are for persons coming not just to be included in any sector or business, but to start their own business. And that also expands job opportunities for Jamaicans. We know for sure that there are sectors like the health sector where we have to have a specific focus on ensuring that we get the right persons here to assist. But it doesn't mean that you don't have Jamaicans who have the qualification. It's just that many of those Jamaicans are gone overseas. So whenever I'm asked that question, I have to hasten to say they're both correct. So yes, in many sectors we have qualified citizens, but the question then is, are they willing, ready, or desirous of taking up those positions in Jamaica? We are developing the labor market so much so that we hope to move to a space where Jamaicans choose Jamaica, where they can choose Jamaica based on their circumstances. And we're seeing that. We're seeing that through the numbers. The statistics is proving it. Stating is establishing it. We are now at a historic low of 3.5%, never before heard of. We're moving from double digits to 3.5%. That's because of the hard work of Hard Trust NST, the hard work of the Ministry of Industry, the hard work of the Ministry of Labor, and all of us together providing the skills training and the support for youngsters who in the past would have to pay to have access to those skills and then pay to have access to job placement, to get all of that, not just free, but with stipend support. So the sectors are aligned based on our labor market information system. And we're seeing an evolving market that's moving into the gig economy, which means that a lot of persons that would normally be seen as laborers are now moving into TikTok and online BPO and many other dynamic forms of employment that are providing them a revenue that you cannot think of. And it's good. It's good. It's a part of the decent work and future of work system for us. But it's also a part of our mandate in terms of refining our labor market information analysis so that we can know where to allocate resources and where to put more support. You see, I don't want to say labor shortage. but we are looking on sectors such as the manufacturing sectors. We're looking on sectors where even agriculture, where despite having many persons here who are quite qualified, you still hear many farmers and persons who are investors saying that they're having difficulty. And we are actually finalizing our assessment now. What I would do, Minister, with your leave, is get back to you with a fulsome listing of all the sectors with details, percentages, to give you some specifics in terms of the percentages and the different sectors.
All right. Thank you. I want to move on to, you have one more? Okay, this will be the last one, and please use the microphone. Yes, you have
Hi,
it.
good morning, everyone. Trisha Gay Kelly from CVM. Minister, you recently commented on a report, an international report that suggested that the Canadian Farm Work Program, on that program, the workers weren't being treated fairly, and you said the report was not entirely accurate. Could you comment if there's any update on that report, as well as any update regarding the program itself?
That's a very loaded question. I don't recall a report that said that the Canadian farm workers are not being treated properly. You're talking about the Amnesty International report? Okay, the Amnesty International report was not specific to Jamaica. The Amnesty International report was a report about temporary foreign workers, of which there are hundreds of thousands. Jamaica has 9,000 workers in Canada. We are in the agricultural sector, which is actually one of the sectors which the policies in Canada was not shifting or impacting. Needless to say, over the last 2 years, we have been consistent in our effort to ensure that the environment in which our workers are placed is at a high standard and at a standard acceptable to Jamaica. We have, as you know, gone not only on observation tours and had discussions with the government and other stakeholders, but we've implemented several things, such as increasing the number of liaison officers, opening up new liaison offices, which is instrumental to make sure that our farm workers and employers have access to us consistently. We have implemented the inclusivity and the no one left behind policy here in our recruitment, which has allowed us to start something for the first time, which means that when someone receives a farm work opportunity, comes to us, is interviewed, if they don't get through, they're not just sent back home. They are given an opportunity to be diverted to heart if it is a literacy issue. They are given an opportunity to get an entrepreneurship grant if it is that they really don't know anything about farming, such as a young man who, when he was asked about a fork, thought we were talking about knife and fork and not actual agricultural fork. He was given an opportunity to start a business, and now he's doing pretty well. So there are several things that we have done to make sure that Jamaica stands out. That does not mean that you won't have persons, some with an agenda, who speak about the environment not being acceptable. And perhaps that is the case in some circumstances. However, we have been strident in making sure that where we see or identify any of those issues, we take swift action to either remove our worker or to have the conversation, as I did when I first traveled to Canada, and the first stop was the farm and the accommodations where we had an issue that was raised globally. And out of that interaction, we saw significant improvement in the accommodations that has now allowed for us to have additional Jamaican farm workers in that space.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much, Minister. Yes. And I know you have to get to Manchester for the roadshow. Good luck with that. We are at 9:49 a.m. and we have Minister Samuda who will be coming to the podium. Now, I know every time you come, I get messages from people in the diaspora talking about how impressed they are by you, Minister Samuda. So let's see what you have for us this morning. And I saw a drought slide up just a few minutes ago, so I'm going to sit down and listen to what you have to say. Thank you. Please welcome Minister Samuda.
Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the welcome, Minister Dixon. I'm going to ask them to just open the slides that they had up earlier. It is related to the current climatic state that Jamaica finds itself in. As we know, Jamaica has a bimodal cyclical rainfall cycle. And as we also should know, because the last 3 years has been particularly rough in February, that February is traditionally your driest month of the year. So we start first by sharing with you what the rainfall looked like in totality for last year. You will notice to the right of your screens that the mean rainfall average, 30-year average, is there, and you can see that for much of the country, we would have received less rainfall than your 30-year average cumulatively. Now, you did have a very wet November, but when one contemplates the flows and how aquifers are recharged, you understand that you did not have a wet enough year to avoid drought conditions at the beginning of the year. Now, as early as December, we saw reductions in rainfall, as you can see, in the south central of the island, as well as the western end of the island. And again, you will see how it compares to your traditional 30-year flows. January, you see that we entered into drought conditions. Now, as it was in November, December, and in January, the northeast of the island did indeed get more rain than the rest of the country. Now, that doesn't mean that they don't experience particular challenges, because as we know, many of our surface water sources are plagued by turbidity. Now, what this has created, also, I bring your attention also to minimum temperatures in January. We've seen significant increases in February, but it would be too early to report on that. But what this has triggered for the National Water Commission is not a national issue, not a national problem, but 23 of our systems are experiencing shortfalls in their water intake, meaning 5% of our water systems are now being regulated. For those of you in the corporate area, you would not yet be experiencing any regulation, as at February 13th, the Hermitage Dam was at 89%, while the Mona Reservoir was at 98%. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the media, certainly who cover PostCab, would recall that this particular presentation was given 7 weeks earlier last year than we've had to give this particular presentation. Now, what this means, ladies and gentlemen, is that there are sections of the country that will require extra interventions. Cabinet has given approval for $150 million to be used for trucking of water, but based on where the situation is, we will immediately allocate 40 million of that 150 to the following areas: Manchester to all of its constituencies, Westmoreland to all of its constituencies, Clarendon to all constituencies, St. Elizabeth to all of its constituencies, and to Portland Eastern and St. Thomas Eastern. Persons may ask why the Northeast would get allocations. It's because their surface water systems suffer heavily from turbidity, so they're already seeing disruptions in their supplies. The trucking program will be overseen by the municipalities. We'll be making those transfers through the Ministry of Local Government from MEGJC this week. This will allow members of Parliament and councillors to immediately respond to those most in need, and this is the first of many other steps. You should also note, because it has been reported in the media, that the government intends within days, actually this weekend, to commence its distribution of 10,000 water tanks as announced by the Prime Minister in his last budget. What that will allow, in essence, is 150 recipients per constituency to receive tanks. This is a major intervention in the tertiary storage level. We get the comments every single year around drought about what the investment program is and how you're reducing the impact of that of drought annually. And I'll give you a very overarching general comment because we are in budget season, so much of the details of our investment program will come in budget. But I will point to those who have taken the time to examine the budget that the Ministry of Finance has made available some 10.1 billion Jamaican dollars, the highest ever, to the National Water Commission to continue with its capital works program. $7.3 billion of this is already under contract. This is not projects that may happen, could happen. These are projects that will immediately commence in April once the first warrant comes over from the Ministry of Finance. But this is a cyclical issue that we face. We do have a bimodal rainfall pattern, and we have suffered from 40 years of disinvestment in the water sector. But we are blessed that this discussion is happening 7 weeks later than it did last year. We're also blessed where the rainfall outlook for February to April is not as chronic as it was last year. It doesn't look good on the screen, but we do expect that the rainy season will start in April this year as opposed to May last year. So we will continue to monitor the drought conditions very clearly and very carefully, and we will ask the Met Service and the National Water Commission to come back to PostCab periodically to give you greater detail as the dry season stretches on. That is one update that I have for you this morning. I believe it was important to bring it to your attention. I remind you all of what we would have announced a short while ago related to extension of the amnesty for those persons who are disabled, and we encourage you to check our websites for the details as to how you access that amnesty. So, Minister, that is my update for this morning.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, one other one. Okay. Just to note, we are in what is called a meteorological drought, not a hydrological, meaning we're not seeing the impact on our rivers yet. Usually when you get into crisis mode is when you start to see the impact on your rivers. So it's making that distinction. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you. All right, Rashid. Who's first?
Mahiri, you can go ahead.
Morning, Minister Mahiri from Nationwide here. I did note that when Minister Morris Dixon was making the introduction earlier, she described Kevin Carr as the acting president of the NWC. Is there any update you can give us on Mark Barnett and his future with the National Water Commission?
Mark Barnett continues on administrative leave, but I expect to be able to provide an update soon.
All right, wonderful. And yesterday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness was giving a speech at the launch of Infinity Cooperative Credit Union, and he was making the note that there are certain developments in Jamaica that can't necessarily happen at the snap of a finger, and he mentioned water as one of them. In terms of bringing water to places that have never had it before in the country, is there anywhere right now that the ministry, has earmarked as a place that's going to be next on the list of getting water soon?
I think you're asking me to go ahead of the Prime Minister's budget speech for March 20th. But I would make the point that 4 years ago, the National Water Commission served 75% of the country. It now serves 78% of households. The stretch between 78 and 90% are served by either private or municipal sources, and there's 10% of citizens who are outside the utility footprint, the known utility footprint. We either do rainwater harvesting or purchase from sources that we're unaware of. The Water Commission's capital program has improved service to over 150,000 Jamaicans over the last 4 years. The capital program will see between 38 and 50,000 persons additionally benefiting this year.
Last question. Where is Northeast St. Anne as it regards the Spark and REACH programs?
We have used our allocations from the REACH program in terms of the first work order. The second work order is set to commence, I would imagine, in a week or two, because I know the procurement is complete. As it relates to the Spark program, we are hopeful to be listed in the next work order. Our approved roads are on the Spark website, and these roads were chosen by citizens who would have attended our consultation exercises.
Minister, Trisha Gay.
Good morning again. Trisha Gay Kelly from CVM. Minister, last year, Western Jamaica suffered dearly in the dry period. Is there any special initiative for that area or any given area that may suffer this year, or will everyone benefit from a general initiative?
Well, you've heard the benefits that they will receive initially from the general initiative, which is our tank program, as well as our trucking program. But the issue in Western Jamaica is like other parts of the country. You have disinvestment for over 40 years. The government would have announced its Western Water Resilience Program, which will target 34 billion Jamaican dollars over the next few years into infrastructure upgrades, primarily changing 67 kilometers of pipeline from the Martha Bray treatment plant into St. James, and from the Great River treatment plant into the western end of Negril. But you would also note that last year, significant work was done on NRW, which is non-revenue water leaking pipes in Western Jamaica, to reduce the impact that that was having on their water supply. We've also done upgrades on the Bullstrode system in just outside of Negril and the Logwood system in Hanover, which serves much of Hanover, West and Western Westmoreland.
Hi, good morning, Minister. Zara Burton with 18 Degrees North. In December of 2024, you wrote a letter to the Minister of Finance detailing that the cost of the Rio Cobre water project was going to be growing to US $92 million from US $76 million because the interest rate had ballooned to 15.16% from 9% or 9.5% at the time of declining interest rate. One water sector economist questioned why there was no competitive bidding, that the price would have been maybe far less. Vinci, in an announcement from the Prime Minister, seems to have been selected from 2009 for this project. The question is, why was there no competitive bidding if in fact there was none? Second question, what % of this water from Rio Cobre will be used in St. Catherine? And third, why hasn't the public been made aware of the increase in the cost?
Well, firstly, the public should be aware that this project does not reflect government debt, meaning there's no liability to the government or to the people of Jamaica. This project is a PPP being undertaken by a group of private sector companies, including Sagicor, Jamaica Producers, Epley Limited, and Vinci, among others. This project, as I mentioned, does not have Jamaican debt. However, the NWC is a member of the special purpose vehicle undertaking this project. When the approval was given in 2022 for this project to be undertaken, there was a competitive process in seeking financing from the local market for the project. The local market did not take up the offer. The SPV then went to the international market and was able to get the project financed by a French development group, which is commonly referred to as Proparco. I don't remember what each letter stands for, but it is the equivalent of their version of USAID and their development financing mechanism. It was also taken up by the IDB Invest. Now, unlike what the local market was expected to request, the SPV was asked to include a debt service reserve account and a fee payment reserve account, meaning the additional cost of the project is related to money that you have to put down in an account should you pay late, etc. The SPV and their financiers are not compromised. That is what has increased the cost of the project. These figures, when the 22-year life of the project is complete, will be returned to the government, well, not the government, will be returned to the SPV, meaning the money returns to you when you complete payment. But the increases in the cost of the project would not be made public at this juncture because the OUR is to complete its process on Monday of next week, when any detail reviewed by them and the final structure of the tariff arrangements would be made public. But this doesn't affect Jamaica's debt, and it doesn't affect the tariff structure of NWC to the customer, because NWC produces 180 million gallons of water daily. This project seeks to provide 15 million gallons daily. That is 8.3% of the total water that we will supply to the system. So this does not affect consumers in any major way. It does not affect your tax burden. It does not also impact you in any major way. The question as to who will get this water. In February 2022, when we would have announced drought mitigation measures, the corporate area was short 12 million gallons daily. And that was after the government, through its investment, had cut leaks in Kingston. And that cut had resulted in Kingston, despite all the development that you would have had between 2016 and 2022, from 55 million gallons to a need of 38 million gallons daily. And you are still short 12 million gallons because of the extreme drought that you would have faced. And this project will supply 15 million gallons to Portmore, to sections of Spanish Town, and to Kingston and St. Andrew. So in essence, it allows development to continue along southern St. Andrew, the Cape Manus project, of course, that corridor from Price Smart to Helsha Heights in Portmore, and I would say the western end of Spanish Town. Now, the system, I can't tell you daily which system will benefit from what volume of the space, because it is not that every day you pull the same volume from each source. So I wouldn't be able to tell you whether western Spanish Town or eastern Portmore or southern St. Andrew will get what. It will be dependent on how the NWC determines whether it rests wells or whether it uses particular sources and that sort of thing. So I wouldn't be able to tell you how much goes into St. Catherine or Kingston. What we can tell you is that the shortfall in drought between western, eastern Portmore and southern St. Andrew will now be non-existent when this project is complete.
I'm not getting an answer to the question I asked at first. I
Perhaps
wanted to
I'm
know.
not understanding your question.
Okay, let me repeat. The competitive bidding that I was speaking about related to the person or the contractor doing the job of the water treatment plant, not the competitive financing aspect of it. I'm asking about the competitive bidding process for the person. Why was Vinci from 09 the one that seemingly was selected? And I said to you that the water resource economist I had spoken to had said that if you had put this out to international tender, you would have likely gotten additional persons that may have been interested. So I was asking if there was in fact competitive bidding for the contractor.
Vinci is the largest infrastructure developer in the world. They are well known to have particular competencies in water systems. I believe a proposal was received from them in 2009 and was accepted by the government of Jamaica. Both administrations have had oversight of this project and had no difficulty with the proposal that was made by Vinci in 2009, which was accepted then. It has taken several years through the project development phase to get to this stage, and has had different partners at different junctures in the proposal. I can't speak to the evaluation of 2009 as it predates me.
Good morning again, Ministers. Shoshana Small from the Gleaner. Minister Samuda, has a new chairman been appointed to the NRCA since the resignation of Welton Madden? If not, when can we expect an appointment? And Minister Dixon, we've had now 3 high-profile incidents at St. James High School, the latest one resulting in classes being suspended. So I'm asking, since this is not the first time that this is happening, should the Ministry of Education shoulder some of the blame about what's going on at the high school? Since after the first, I think, 2 incidents, the ministry was to do an investigation, Was this investigation completed? What were the findings? And what actions, if any, were taken?
So I'll answer mine first. The chairman has not, or the appointment of a chairman has not yet taken place. We expect that this will happen within the next week. Within the next week.
All right. I'm going to ask Miss. Okay, go ahead. This is our last question. Oh, okay. All right, you can quickly ask your question, and then we'll have to move on because I know we're at the end.
Minister, this is about now the move away from the monarchy. Just curious, do you have a sense of an answer? Forgive me if I'm incorrect on this. I didn't see where the government responded to the opposition regarding the concern about how the president would be elected. Did the government respond to that? If not, can you, or you're not in a position?
I'm not in a position to. I know that the Joint Select Committee up till last week met, and remember there's a Joint Select Committee of Parliament that is meeting to discuss the draft bill, and in that draft bill, I remember there being a section on the election of, and the selection of the president, and I think it went into quite a bit of detail. So as a part of that Joint Select process, they will be going through those details in the bills, and they've actually asked for public consultation. So members of the public have sent in their submissions, and the Joint Select Committee is listening to them. So in terms of the details, though, next week I know our Minister of Constitutional Affairs will be here, so she can take some of those questions.
Okay, Minister, the final question is from one of the students from Pearnel.
Oh, I didn't answer the other one on St. James High School, and you are correct. There have been several instances of issues, and I know I've watched the news and seen it in the past, and I will say what happened on this week was very, very disappointing, and our students are our priority, and for us as a government, the education of our students is number one. And when you have your students not able to go to school because of the internal politics in a school, it is a problem. And we're going to have to fix it. And we feel that we have to look at the legislation. We have to look also at the regulations, because I know I was on the Education Transformation Commission, and from then we had said that the law and also the regulations, they don't give enough power for stepping in. And that is something that we're going to have to address, because what happened is unacceptable this week. I have Ms. Murray here, who is the head of the NCE. She was there yesterday. There was a series of meetings that we had. We had meetings with the chair, we had meetings with the teachers and other concerned individuals, and went through all of the issues, all of the interpersonal issues. But interpersonal issues should never lead to students not going to school. And we feel very strongly about this, and the ministry will have to intervene earlier in some of these matters. We may have been late in terms of intervention, but I'm saying to you as Minister of Education, these things cannot continue, and I don't think anyone in Jamaica watching that video about those actions. And our students deserve to be at school, not being deprived of education because of internal politics. I'm going to have, yeah. She's going to come and tell you about, she would have had more. Okay, Minister Samuda wants to go. He wants to sit down. He doesn't want to take anything else. Ms. Murray, for him? Okay, all right. Ms. Murray, yes, you can come. Ms. Murray is going to come and quickly clarify the rest of your question in terms of what was done. And the CEO is also here. Our Chief Education Officer is also in the room, and our Permanent Secretary is also here. Ms. Murray, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. Could you raise a concern about St. James High School for me?
I said that this wasn't the first time that something like this is happening at the institution. So in the previous instances, when the ministry intervened, what was done? What kind of actions were taken to prevent, what we had happening recently?
So we're talking about recently. We met with them yesterday. We met with the board yesterday. We met with the academic staff yesterday and ancillary, all staff members, we met with them. We met with the board and the staff collectively, and then we met with the board by itself. We wanted to find out what were the issues. And there are a lot of issues at St. James High. There are interpersonal issues. There are issues regarding how do they manage conflicts. That is another area that we need specific intervention. We also recognize that there was a breakdown in the governance in terms of how the board adjudicated on matters. When we spoke with the board members, they were saying, look, we want to make collective decisions. We want to be part of the decision-making process. Yes, we agree that there are some issues, but at the end of the day, we want to have a stake in it. And so there was a breakdown, and we want to fix, we have decided how to fix that, right? How do we get boards to observe their collective, which is indeed fiduciary responsibility to act in the best interests of schools and children placed in their charge.
Ms. Murray, this is the first time that the ministries meet in school. They didn't meet with them in the previous instances. And were any investigations done, any actions taken?
The
with
region.
The principal?
But you know, I have been with the ministry, I've been in the NC 2009, and we've had several interventions with Montego Bay High School. There was a detailed report. St. James High School. There's detailed reports. You can consult with me, we can share them, and several interventions have been made, okay? But you know, St. James High was senior school. It's come far. It was senior school was a school that was really a place where they socialized criminals. Things have changed. Transformation has taken place or is taking place. So we have to manage the process. We have to identify what are the strengths of the institution, the limitations, and develop appropriate strategies so that we ensure that we have synergy between board and school. Thank you.
You have another function to run to, so go ahead quickly. All right. I heard you, so I will. Yeah. That's it? Okay.
Is Mr. McCurdy the chairman of the board? And two, Mr. Morris-Dixon, why is the government, there seems to be a reluctance in terms of releasing the SSL funds in the report. Can you say why? You hear the opposition saying sections of it have been leaked. Can you say why there is a seeming reluctance to make it public?
Yeah. Okay. All right. On the SSL matter, I don't know of a seeming reluctance. I will ask the Minister of Finance to speak on that. She will also be here next week in terms of the SSL matter. In terms of the school and St. James High and your question about moving forward, I haven't even gotten a chance to read the report. They got back in at 11 p.m. last night. They were working through the interpersonal challenges, and you know, in Jamaica we have interpersonal challenges across the board. It's unfortunate when it seeps into the leadership of our schools, but we're going to have to deal with it, and we are dealing with it strongly and frontally, and we're even looking at our regulations to look at how we can change those to ensure that if there are any issues in a school, that there is more latitude for us to act. I heard someone on the radio yesterday saying that I was impotent to act, meaning that the law doesn't give me much leeway in terms of stepping in schools. And I think it is something as Jamaica we have to look at, because these issues, it's not just this school. You know, there are many schools, and there will be issues that will come up over time. And we want to ensure that our children are never deprived of their education in situations like this. But once I get the report, I'll talk to you some more.
I think Minister summed it up nicely, but we just want to extend appreciation to the board of management that has held the situation in check, and the region as well, the regional director and the team. And we want to just ensure them and assure them that we stand ready to support them.
Miss Murray is one of the senior people in our ministry, and she's been there for a long time, and she's been dealing with our boards, and she's working very hard in terms of some of the changes we want to do to the way boards are selected in our schools. And so we're going to be coming in a few weeks to talk about the new selection process for boards. We believe, as did the Patterson report, that that has to be overhauled, and we are working now to make that a reality. So we'll come to you with more on that. As I end, I just note that Friday is Jamaica Day in all our schools across the country. It's also Jamaica Day for everybody. And so we ask you to wear your black, green, and gold on Friday and celebrate our culture. And the theme this year is celebrating Jamaica, steaming towards the future, honing good character. That issue of character is very important, and it's something that we're focused on in the Ministry of Education. And so this brings us to the end of our post-cabinet press briefing for today. We will see you again next time. Next week will be a special one. We're going to be doing it on Tuesday because Wednesday is Ash Wednesday. There'll be several ministers who will be here next week, Tuesday. And as always, I say to you here, to you online, you and God bless Jamaica, land we love. Thank you.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, one and all, short and tall, big and small. I'm so honored that you are choosing to spend time with Amina.
Spend time with Amina. Saturdays at 2 p.m. inside the Children's Corner, right here on PBCJ.